You're listening to the Curious Equestrian podcast, produced by Horsemanship Journal magazine and hosted by me, Anna Louise. Through this podcast, we delve into the enigmatic world of horses, approaching every experience with empathy and a sense of wonder, bringing together trainers, behaviourists and horse owners, each sharing personal, exciting stories that deepen our connection to these majestic animals. We unfold diverse stories of horses and their people, stories that inspire, that challenge and transform us. Join as we traverse the depths of equine behaviour and psychology, where curiosity leads the way and every horse has a tale to tell. Enriched by a variety of human experiences, insights and voices, this is the Curious Equestrian. And today's guest is Roy Stanley, an equine sports massage therapist. She's the founder of Balance and Align, and Kat also hosts the Equisential podcast. She has a passion for horses and a lifelong love of all equestrian pursuits. In her work, she focuses on the relationship that you're building with your horses, the strengths and the challenges that we might be facing in our partnerships. So we delve in this episode into so many different interesting ideas. We think about our energy when we enter the field or the arena. We think about the baggage that we're carrying around in life and how that might affect our horses. Kat dissects communication and relationship difficulties that she's faced with her horses and her own personal healing journey that it inspired her to go on. We hear all about Kat's adventures in Ghana, training and working with the military's problem horses, and we find out how we can work on ourselves and be honest with ourselves in order to have healthier relationships with our animals. Kat, welcome to the Curious Equestrian podcast.
Hello, so nice to be here.
Take us back, Kat, to the moment when you first fell in love with horses in your childhood.
Oh, I was actually writing an article on this the other day, and it really brought me back because it's always the moment before when you think. And for me, I was really little, and we used to drive past these horses on the side of the road. They weren't actually on the side of the road, they were in a field on the side of the road. And I seem to remember, I think I pretty much blackmailed my parents as a child to pull over and let me feed them apples. And there was 3 in a field, and I was determined, and I thought they were my horses. Like I've got a picture of me as a tiny little girl with looking up at this massive head. I think it was a Clydesdale or something, and there was a big one, a medium one and a small one, and I thought it was the daddy, the mummy and the baby. And I just sit there and I just remember, honestly, that child perspective. And I hold that apple in my hand, and they would just come over, and they were so soft and gentle, and they just take it from me. Now I know it's not good to feed the horses, but at the time it did not. I know, very bad. And I just felt so much joy in that moment, and I didn't feel scared at all. And I was so little, and their head was probably as big as me. And I used to ask every week, I'd make my parents go back there. And I remember being like, I can't believe these are someone else's horses. They're either mine or they're wild. Like, why would these beautiful things have another purpose other than having apples from me and just living their life? And it really confused me. But I remember just feeling this connection with them and them feeling so powerful and so strong and so present, but I felt completely safe. So that was when I first connected with horses.
It's interesting, as kids, we often have that moment, don't we, where we first come into contact with horses. For me, it was a horse that lived through a woodland. And again, he wasn't anything to do with me, but I gave him a name. I called him Mighty. He was sort of huge. I imagine it was like a big Frisian horse now, and I actually try and remember what sort of breed he was. I used to feed him carrots, and now I think, oh my gosh, I'm the owner that bangs in signs saying, do not feed the horses, you know, your kindness may kill them. But now I think, gosh, what was I doing? But we all have that instant moment where they captured our hearts. When did you get to own your own ponies and horses?
Yeah. It was not till a long time later. I think they captivated my heart then. And when you're a child and you think, I know everything about horses now. We have connected. We are the same. And I, again, pretty much pestered with might my parents to give me riding lessons. And I lost it. I lost my way with it. I had this connection with them, but it wasn't until I was 14 I got my own pony, because I was so desperate for that connection back, and I felt the more time I spent with horses in a riding school setting, when you're taught to ride, the more they didn't want to be with me, and the more that connection felt further away, because the modality of the time I was spending with them was me telling them what to do, me being demanding, me being impatient, me being a child that wanted it my own way. Why weren't they cantering properly? Why weren't they? It was all about what I want. And of course, these poor horses who have had 50 kids in the day getting on them and telling them what to do, and probably not being very patient or understanding or soft or gentle. I was like, why don't they like me? Why don't they connect with me? I want to connect with them. And so in my very naive state, I thought, oh, it's because they're not my horse. That'll solve it. So I, again, pretty much pitched to my family who aren't horsey to get me a horse when I think I was in year 10 at the time. And I watched War Horse. I was like, you know what? We're going to have that connection. It's going to be, he will find me in war because he's mine. And I bought him. And yeah, I bought my family were kind enough to buy me a little Welsh section D who was 3. And I had no experience in starting horses or anything like that. I just knew how to tack them up, put the head collar on, get on and ride. Thought that was everything. So you can see some things go crashing down quite quickly. And I think I was faced with that moment of, oh, I have my own horse. And yet I don't feel like I did when I was holding that apple with the ones when I was a child. He doesn't want to be with me because I'm not nice to be around. So yeah, that was when I got my first horse.
And tell us about the connection you were seeking, because it's really interesting. A lot of people head to riding schools to get a connection and to get some contact with horses when they otherwise can't. But what was it that you were really craving from a horse?
I mean, I think it's such an amazing question. And I think it's one we need to go back to time and time again of and the more I know now is it's a deeper need that it's our need for relationship and our need for connection through being seen and also seeing. It goes both ways. It's that I can't never say a reciprocity of connection that you feel like you are able to speak without words to another being and see them for who they are, and for them to mirror back and see you for who you are and give that depth of heart connection that horses are so brilliant at, because they're so present, and just then their being is relationship, just like us, but we've lost that along the way. And I think so many people seek out horses for a deeper reason. We're almost called to them, I think, because they offer that mirror to us. And when we often struggle to find it along the way. And I think that is what we're all searching for, is that being seen, heard and understood on a much, much deeper level than what we might get or what we might actually think we're getting, if that makes sense.
It does. So what happened? We're all left on tenterhooks wondering what this 14-year-old with a Welsh section D that didn't want to talk to her, didn't want to know, unbroken 3-year-old, what did you do next when you realised actually
you can just
the
picture it, can't you?
is not there?
Yeah. And I think it's very fair to say, I literally have this picture of me in my head, like, you've got the pony home, you've got the things, you're like, my journey's about to begin. And then for starters, I couldn't even catch him. So I was just in the field like, okay, they say it might take a few days. And yeah, it's just this teenager who almost has her world crumble around her. It's like everything just kind of, that moment where you're like, everything I know, everything I thought I knew, I don't think is right or is not right going forwards. What on earth do I do now? And I think it was hard. It was really hard, and I was not perfect. And I think that's what's really important, is knowing that I did the best with what I could at the time, and I was determined to find another way. And I think I had a lot of aha moments in the darkness, which we all do. When we're almost run out of answers, we're forced to look in other places, and we're forced to get real with ourselves and allow to look at parts of ourselves that we didn't want to before. And I think it dawned on me that, yes, okay, people would look at him and go, he's naughty, he bites, and he run, like, all of these things. He wasn't an easy, in air quotes for those who are listening, pony to manage. So a part of me wanted to be like, it's all his fault and I got the wrong one. But actually, I think a part of me knew that he was just showing me parts of myself that I hadn't yet healed. And I needed to listen better, and I needed to learn quick, and I needed to understand what he was telling me so that I could help him and I could help him feel understood. Because the more I wasn't understanding him, the more scared and reactive and stressed he got. And I went on an incredible path of, I started studying psychology at school. I started to realize that there's more to us than the horses that meets the eye. There's a whole unconscious mind, and there's a whole world out there that when you see it, you're like, I can't unsee this now. I'd go home and I'd practice all the little theories that I learned in school. And I was such a little nerd. I was like, okay, do they say if I give you a treat when you do this, you'll do it again? Like all these kind of very, very basic kind of stuff. And it just opened my mind, and I discovered more natural horsemanship techniques and learning about my energy. What was my energy saying when I was around him? And it was a long road. It was a long road, and it was one with many turns and many glimpses of peace, but mostly just chaos. But in the end, I think I just stuck with it. And I kept uncovering the pages, even when it was hard to read and hard to hear, and when I didn't know what the next day would bring. I just started to have compassion for him and myself, and to stop trying to be something that we're not, and to stop being the perfect ones on the yard, and just embracing that, okay, there's the teenager that's a bit of a hot mess and the pony that's a hot mess, but they're trying hard. Yeah. And in the end,
you didn't give up on him. I think
I never gave up.
Of what happens with horses is not quite what we were after. It's not great fit, and horses pass from owner to owner.
Yeah.
But you thought, I'm going to stick it out here and change my way of being and thinking and behaving.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I didn't want to give up on myself as well, because I knew that it was in him and I knew that it was in me, but we were both misunderstood teenagers. And that's hard to go through that. And there was times my mum came up and she said they used to fight, 2 kids in the playground, and we wouldn't look at each other and be like, oh, for God's sake. And, but in the end, we grew up together and found our way, even if it was just learning how to communicate together, even if it was learning how to read each other and understand each other. And we were best friends in the end, but it wasn't an easy path, but it was the path I needed to take.
And what did you learn from psychology in class about humans, and how did that translate to your work with horses?
Yeah, I think that's an amazing question. And I think I became a real nerd, and I went on to study it in university. Even after my pony had passed, I was like, I need to learn more about what is going on in the heads of ours and the bodies of ours. And I think what I learned was, we always think we have the answers, but we aren't even aware of what we do on a daily basis. We aren't aware of what our face is doing, or how we're feeling, or how we're responding, because when it's you can't see it. And there's so much in our nervous system. There's so much in what our body is telling others and our horses and each other about how we're being, even without opening our mouth. I think that's what stuck with me, is that we think we're in control of so much about how we're acting. The point where we can say to someone, yeah, I'm fine. But actually, your nervous system has already communicated that you're not fine without you even intending to. And that's what has carried me through in my work, and understanding that underneath it all, we just want to be understood, and the power of that. It's not just it's lovely and woo-woo. It's a fundamental need that we have for our emotional, our psychological, our physiological well-being is we need to exist in relationships. And that is really powerful. And learning how the brain works and the body and how it all works together, we try and separate ourselves into this and that. Whereas actually, we are, the way that our nervous system feels, it orchestrates everything else, including in our horses. So when we start to understand that, we can come to it from a way different approach of understanding rather than judging and being confused, just being excited. I think that's what really stuck out for me.
And how do you talk about that energy, which is really interesting, isn't it? Because when we meet people, we pick up on different energies, whether someone might be a little bit more aggressive and we might retreat, or someone might be very enthusiastic and we might think, oh, that's a lot of energy coming at me. Or you can sense nervousness and anxiousness. How do you shift your energy with your horse when inevitably you're going to get stressed about work or worried about something in your personal life?
Hell yeah. And I think this is such an amazing question. Like, I love it. And I think we can all listen to this and go, yes, I get it. I hear it. But actually in that moment when you've had an awful day, like my tire popped yesterday and I could feel it in myself, you know, even all this work that you do, you're like, you don't start meditating when the house is burning down. You don't.
No, exactly.
It's about knowing, you can't. It's not the moment when your horse has gone, oh my God, there's a really scary thing coming. A dog's running towards me and I can't handle myself. And then we go, oh yeah, there's this thing that Kat told me a while ago, let's practice it now. And you're like, your nervous system's already gone. It's gone. And I think it's being compassionate with the world that we live in and the world we put our horses in. Is like, it's not easy, guys. Like the amount of stress and dysregulation we're around on a daily basis is insane. And going, okay, how can I see this? And how can I firstly regulate myself? Because when we go into a stressful situation and we expect ourselves to cope, so we've had a stressful day at work, it was late, it's raining, our horse is on edge, our nervous system is automatically going to dysregulate unless we put in the muscle work beforehand. So it's taking our relationship with ourselves really seriously, not in a serious way, but knowing that we've got to be consistent. We've got to be on it with how we learn to regulate ourselves in day-to-day life, creating space for that. Just like we'd practice riding before we go on a jumping course. If someone, oh yeah, I've had 1 or 2 lessons, let's go cross country. You'd be like, whoa. Let's just take it back a few steps. It's I can't expect my body to regulate when I'm on the cross country course if I haven't done my stirrup work, whatever, or if I haven't built up a language with myself and my horse. It's about attuning to who you are, how you're feeling, and nurturing your relationship with yourself so that you're building up that feeling of safety within. Because when you feel safe, your horse goes, okay, I know that my human feels safe right now. And that's without words. You don't need to tell them that. That's just your beingness. It's like when you have a conversation with someone who feels grounded, you automatically go. Whereas if there's that person on the yard that's a little bit, gets a bit stressed and gets a bit all over the place. Yeah.
We all
even when they arrive.
Livery.
Hells yeah. And I hold my hands up like I've been that in the past. And you're almost going like, why is my heart beating really fast?
Yeah.
Because nervous systems speak.
That is amazing. And I guess that really does help a background in working with horses and people, understanding yourself, understanding how people operate, because horses, as much as they do exist in the wilderness, we now see them, don't we, alongside their owners. That's how we usually all mix in big herds of horses and people. How do you think your background in psychology then paved the way and worked alongside your natural horsemanship techniques?
Yeah, again, amazing question. And I think I find it hilarious how, firstly, I I was so obsessed with horses that I went to study human psychology. Like, why? I was like, it wasn't even a question for me. That's just what I wanted to do. And so there's there's subconscious thing of, I knew that it comes back to us firstly. And I think it just, it gives you a different perspective. And it's like you're trying to cook this amazing dish, or you're building that with your horse, and it's one that needs a lot of different ingredients, a lot of different approaches. And the more you can pick from different things, the more nourishing your meal's going to be, the more nourishing your relationship's going to be with your horse. And I do think in psychology, a lot of it is quite left-brained, which is very funny because we can know it all, but we don't live it. And I think I really had to catch myself with that, because you can know a lot. Like, you can know a lot about the left brain, the right brain. You can know a lot about emotional versus rational, or your mammalian brain or your reptilian brain, your flight fight systems. You can know it all, but actually I would say that it made me realize how you have to live it. So it's a different approach to your question of, it did really help me. But it made me realize that knowing stuff isn't everything. It's actually becoming it and weaving it in and bringing it into practice. So I guess my horsemanship was me bringing my books into real life, because I could read about the fight flight system, or I could read about the safety or the shutdown, or I could go, yeah, I get it. And I could get top marks on it. But when I'm with my horse in that moment, I can't go, hey man, I need you to listen to me. You're getting a little bit too emotional here. And it's just a bin. So I need you to just breathe. And that doesn't compute. So it was bringing it into practice. So I'd actually think my horsemanship made my psychology deeper.
And tell us, you've got to tell us, Kat, about your adventures in Ghana. What inspired you to take the trip and to go and work with military horses?
Oh, I love that you brought this up, because I think Ghana was the trip that made me, because I just lost my pony and I was in that, do I quit forever? When you've lost that horse that's really brought you so much and made you who you are, and it almost feels so painful to continue the journey with another, or in a different way, or to imagine your life without them, and to it's almost like you're starting the next chapter. And it's really painful to imagine doing that without the person that made the beginning of the book. And I was at university at the time, and I was like, I'm done with the UK. I'm just at that point where I was like, I don't know who I am. I thought I knew this all about me, and I'm still a hot mess. So I know, who's ever had that before? Honestly. So I was like, I'm not even joking. I went, I've got a placement year on my university. So that's just included in my course. A lot of people went to normal things. So they did educational psychology, occupational psychology. They went to work in clinical settings in London, and really amazing things. And I was like, I'm Googling. I thought I wanted to do sports psychology. Now, the horses are a part of this journey. I was like, I know I want to do sports psychology. I'm done with the UK. Let's just Google. We're just going to Google, see what happens. So I Googled sports psychology placements abroad. Ooh. The first thing that came up, was Ghana. I didn't know where it was. Wow. My geography is not, I studied psychology for a reason, not geography.
Didn't know where Ghana was.
No. I honestly didn't even know it was in Africa.
Oh my goodness.
This is how much of I can get A stars, but I don't have common sense. I went to my mum. I was like, Mum, I'm moving to Africa for a year. I'm moving to Ghana. She was like, could you point out on a map? I was like, no, but I'm going there. Bless her. She was like, okay, she's doing this. Looking back, I'm like, thank you, Mum, because that's a crazy decision to allow your child, who clearly has no sense of direction, to move to Africa for a year. And trust that she'll come back alive. So I went, and I worked with sports psychology. I worked with the football team. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about communication, teamwork, how you can know all the skills, but if you do not believe in yourself to get a goal, you won't. You can have it all. But if that belief that you are enough isn't there, you won't score. And they were incredible and they taught me incredible lessons. And I just had this feeling of horses, this yearning for horses. And I got into university writing a personal statement about horses, which is hilarious, doing human psychology. And I met a friend through another friend who was like, hey, Kat, we're going to start an equine project. And I was like, what? She knew nothing about me. She knows horses. Horsey. And I was like, there's some creepy stuff going on here, but I'm in. I said, yes. And she was like, okay, it's with the military's horses. And I went and I spent 6 months with the military's horses, and they literally handed me an unbroken 2-year-old problem horse. This is inverted commas, who whenever anyone touched him, he'd rear up and hit them in the face, or he'd run away, or he'd just very scared, misunderstood, flighty. And the way that they initiated the training with him was very forceful. So everything he knew about humans was like, they're not safe. And I had my little rope with me, my little halter, didn't even have a stick. And they went, here you go. Like, okay. Yeah. And I had 10 weeks.
What did you do with that unbroken 2-year-old?
Cry a lot. I had no one there to help me. Like, my good friend, she thankfully did horsemanship, so she was amazing. I still work with them today, the most incredible charity of Choir Volunteers. And she helped me. And I just had to pick my soul off the floor every day, because it was like he scared me so much because he felt like he just run me over. I didn't know. All of the holes in my horsemanship, in my belief in myself, came up. And if I didn't trust myself, he couldn't trust me. And I'd go home every night crying because I'd be like, I've realized this about myself. I've realized that I don't trust people. I've realized that I don't know how to set boundaries. I've realized that I don't know how to. All of these things came up that I thought I dealt with. And I went to the depths of my soul every evening, and I'd look up Pirelli videos, I'd look up horsemanship, I'd look up anything that I could find. And my poor friend got so fed up with me using all the internet because I'd be looking up horsey videos. And bit by bit, we developed a communication, a friendship. It was as much me learning as he was learning. And by the end of it, we were running together. We just had this bond of, he felt so safe with me. I was the only person who could bring him in from the field. And it was there. And to this day, he's one of their best ridden horses. Like, he is just kind to everyone. They love him. His name's Spirit, but they call him Iron because they feel like he's so strong. And he truly changed my life. Truly, truly. So that was Garner.
What was the turning point with Spirit? When did he change from that rearing, punching in the face, dangerous, scary horse to you to actually the breakthrough moment of thinking, we've got a connection building here?
Yeah. And I made a little video about it. I'll send it to you afterwards that you can share. But I think it was a few weeks in, I just had to keep showing up. And it's like when everything's going wrong, when you don't know what the day's going to bring, you don't know if you're doing it right, you just keep showing up and believing and shifting within yourself. And I think it was a few weeks where he just would see me. Before, it was like trying to have a conversation with someone that was like seeing red. They didn't want to connect. They couldn't connect. It was too much. It was too dangerous. And I remember there was one day, I think it was probably 2 weeks in, he looked at me and he went, oh, you're with me. You see me. And I was like, hi. And I used to feel really uncomfortable when he'd come in close because you just don't know when they're that reactive. And I remember going, okay, just breathe. And I was like, let's meet him where he's at. And I just came over and I put my hand on him and I was like, okay, hey, buddy, I'm here to help. And it was tiny moments of that. Then he'd be off and it'd be another whole song and a dance. And I'd be like, breathe, it's fine, okay. And there'd just be tiny moments along the way. And they just started getting bigger and bigger. And then to the point where we could go around, or I could ask him for a tiny little backup. And he would see me and go, oh my God, I understand what she's asking. I get it. And then he'd come and engage with me, or he'd want to be with me. And it was that relationship. It was that moment that it was the relationship rather than me trying to fix him or me trying to make him feel a certain way. It was just me going, I'm here for you, buddy. and we're figuring this out together. Yeah.
And feeling that connection as well. I think so often in the world of equestrianism, we're looking for results, aren't we? We're looking for visual progress. But actually, often it's feeling the connection or feeling that relationship building that we should be looking out for in a way.
Yeah, and it's so true, isn't it? Because even me, I was like, oh, I'll fix him, or we'll be able to do this by the end of the time. And I just, because it was such a humble experience, and I just had to completely let that go and just say whatever will be. And it brought me to tears, the depth of that relationship, because I'd never, even with my pony, I think I had an expectation in mind. Never in my life had I been in a place where I felt like the outsider and I could just completely go, okay, even if I just have a moment of relationship with you in these 6 months or however many weeks we're together, that's enough. And I think that's what we've lost as humans. We go to our phones for connection because we deeply yearn for that. It's a feeling. And we're going to it in so many different places to try and find it, and we're not getting it and now we're losing touch with it, which is why it feels so hard with our horses sometimes, because we're taught to look for something, not feel it.
That's so true. And when you were working with these military horses and with Spirit, what were you told you had to achieve with him? You know what you were going for and what you wanted and what you wanted to feel and the progress you wanted to make. But did you have to box tick anything along the way?
So yes and no, I think. No, nowhere near as much as we would box tick. I loved that about them, actually. Because no one was like, I know what to do and I know how to do it better, which is what I think we're all guilty of, especially in the horsemanship world and in the UK and many places in the world, is we want to control and micromanage and often put too many tick boxes so that we lose the magic of the journey. And I really appreciated that about them because I think they saw me as a professional. I think they saw me as like, I got handed the under 17s youth national team in Ghana, like a football team. They were like, oh, you're a professional. Here you go. Give them a speech. And I was like, oh, I know nothing about football. Here we go. Like they just go, yep, you must be a professional. Here you go. And obviously, can't endorse that all the time. But in that moment, I think I was so blessed enough for them to go, okay, we can't do anything with this horse. So we're just going to leave her to it. And I felt at peace because I could work my way through things. It didn't look perfect. If someone filmed it and posted it online, people would be like, oh my God, what's going on there? But I was able to make mistakes and I was able to have the freedom of figuring it out as I go. And yes, they wanted a ridden horse at the end of it, but I never felt that pressure. And I was very clear with them, like what we were doing and I just needed to help him feel safe first. And I spent weeks out there. They're probably looking at me like, okay, crazy lady's out there again. But I never felt judged and I never felt criticized. And yeah, there wasn't the tick boxes. Oh, he needs to be doing this now. We need to be putting a saddle on him now. It just came organically. And that meant I could do it with his yeses rather than going, hey buddy, we've got to do this by the end of the week because tick, 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 tick. And that's not putting the relationship first. And there was many horses I worked with there. Another one who was a horse called Zara, who they call her the devil's horse. Not very nice. Because she just was like, I can't handle humans. And they wanted her to be ridden. That was a tick box. But in that moment, I was confident enough, this was a year after, of going, hey guys, let's just take it back. Let's just come back. And then the magic started to happen. So yeah.
So you learnt as well a lot from the Ghanaian military. You learnt that they put less box ticks in place than we perhaps do, and less pressure maybe than we do in the equestrian industry over here. Did you learn anything else from their way of going and from their way of being around horses?
That is a really good question. I think it was really funny because I had never spent that much time with as many boys or men in my life as when I went to Ghana. Like obviously I lived with 30 football players from the age of 9 to 20. Then I went to work with the military and I'd come from a very female oriented place. And I think it was really enlightening for me actually, because I realized how much simpler, like they're not in a bad way, and actually a really lovely way of how much we can overcomplicate things and put emotions and almost we don't see each other because we're so judgmental about each other. That's what really, and they were so embracing. They were some of the most beautiful people I've ever met. And they'd be like in the military with a massive gun, taking things very seriously. They'd be like, yes, Kat, like, how are you today? They would just sing with me. They would dance with me. They'd laugh. I'd say hi to everyone. And I felt really safe with them. And they had this lightness and this mix of boundary. I'm the military, but there's also such a playfulness about it. And I think that's the biggest thing I learned from them was fun. And that's such a crazy thing to say because you think, and discipline, no doubt. Some of the things they were telling me they had to do for training and how serious it got and how much they had to do. And yet they had so much joy in them. And one particular guy called Boateng, who used to run the stables, we just laugh and laugh. And yet I always felt safe with them. Like they had my back. And yet they were able to laugh when something went wrong. They had a camel on site. We just used to chat to the camel. And that's a really unexpected lesson, actually, and also how much shit can get done, excuse my French, when you actually have no idea what you're doing. When you have a mission and a goal and you just make it happen. And I was like, whoa, okay. And it's really interesting lessons, but they were wonderful.
How did you leave Spirit behind when you had to come back to the UK?
Oh, it was one of the hardest things I've had to do. One of the hardest things. And I think when you've started a horse in that way and they've become the first human that they've trusted, I think a big part of me wanted to move there. Not going to lie. I think I was like, once I'm done with uni, we're going back. And the guys at the stable used to call him my horse. And I'd be like, how much would it cost to fly him over to England? It was really tough. And I think it's because of that relationship that you can't explain to them why you're going or where you're going or helping them go, hey, it's okay, you're in good hands. And I've loved my time with you. And I know they feel it. You can tell them and share that with you. But at the end of the day, I just had to let go and be okay with whatever was meant to be in his journey was meant to be. And knowing that the start that we had together, if that had opened him up for connections in the future and for him to be understood more and treated more gently because his behavior was more gentle and he could communicate rather than just explode, I think I had to find peace in that and know that we can't control the journeys of every single horse and human. And it's the hardest thing we'll ever have to do when you've got that depth of relationship. But I'm taking your lessons with me and I'm going to use them to change people's lives and horses' lives. And you have changed me as a person. And hopefully I've changed you. But it was tough. I cried a lot. And I've been back a few times since and seen him. And it's never the same. They've been through life like we have. But there's always that acknowledgement and that resonance that you started this world together. If that makes sense.
And you talk about your lessons that you've learned from Spirit. What do you now take from that and use with your clients and with other horses that you work with? What sort of translatable techniques do you use in your horsemanship now that stems back to Spirit?
Yeah, and so many. I think many lessons we learn from horses go beyond words because they are a being. And you don't realize the impact of the lessons that you've had from horses that you've touched and they've touched you because they're in your body and they're in the way you interact, the softness of your hands, your eyes, your perspective. I think he's changed that forever. All of the horses in my path have. And just having compassion as well, I think, for the journey and knowing that it's okay to not know what you're doing. And it's okay to feel like you're in the darkness and you want to do something different, but you don't know how. And I think that's what I want to be for my clients is I know the value of being heard. And even if it's just going, hey, I know what you're doing right now. It doesn't feel good and it doesn't work for you. I hear you and that's okay. That's amazing. Let's help you shift you. Because that's what Spirit taught me, right? Was like so much of me was getting in the way of him having breakthroughs because of things things that were just in my unconscious, I had to work through. So it definitely shifted that moment of going, oh my God, it all comes back to us. And I thought I knew it, but I didn't know it. And so that's the approach now that I'm like, hey, let's help you feel seen and shift what's in you that your horse is seeing and touching on, that they've got a mirror to, so that then you can be the safe space that they need to shift. I think before I'd go into it like, oh yeah, I need to help them with their language, or I need to help them feel understood. But it was, even though it was with compassion and love, it was them, rather than going, okay, let's look at me first. And why am I getting upset at certain points? Why do I get upset when they leave me in the field and I feel all deflated, or when they explode and I feel out of control? And there's a reason. So let's be curious and look at that. And that might bring some difficult moments. But ultimately, when we shift, then we can see our horse so much better, and we can be there for them, and we can help them in their moment of darkness because we've done the work on ourselves.
How difficult is it, Kat, to approach the owner and say, now let's turn the focus on you? Because I imagine they think, I've called you up to work on my horse, not for a counselling or therapy session about me and my issues.
Hells yeah. And ironically, I didn't realize I wanted to be firstly, that's why I've got an Equestrian Relationships Coach in my name, because those people who go, oh, that sounds great, probably the kind of people that are already ready for those conversations. It's tough. And I think I did a equine massage qualification. I just was curious. I wanted to get into the industry. I didn't know how to be what I wanted to be. I know you need to start somewhere. And everyone got so annoyed with me because they were like, why aren't you just massaging my horse in silence? Like, why do you keep telling me about me? And I'd be there like, oh yeah, no, I think this tension is, what about this in your horse? And have you ever thought about this? And I think people would just be like, oh my God, this is the most high maintenance massage I've ever had to give my horse. Because I'm just like, you go away thinking, oh, now my horse got a nice loose back, and I'm questioning my whole existence. And I think that made me realize I needed to go into it as an actual thing. And a lot of my clients they're just the most beautiful people. And I think you get that impression with me quite quick. I'm not about messing around with the point I'm in. And a lot of people, that's a little bit too much, that kind of, whoa, okay. And there has been moments, where there has been, it's been a really tough one, because as a coach and as someone who I'm like, I want to help you the best I can and have the conversations that I feel like you're ready for. And it's okay if people are like, okay, no, I don't want to go there. And I'm like, that's totally cool. And it is hard. And I think that's why I'm very transparent, even in my name, of this isn't about the results, it's about the relationship. And are you okay with it taking longer than you think? Are you okay with embracing that journey, whatever it may be? Are you okay with looking at yourself? Because I'm always like, there's us, there's our horses, and there's our relationship together. We've got those different components. And I think from the get-go, I was like, you are the key component in every relationship you have. Be that with your guinea pig, your dog, your parents, your friends, your partner. You are the key component. Not that you're the most important, no, but it's the only one that you have influence over. So let's start there. And yeah, I think when people realize that, a lot of them are like, okay, let's go there. And there's been definitely a few times when new clients have been like, yes. And they've got in the room with a few of me and my clients, and they're like, whoa, I knew it was going to be deep, but I didn't know it was going to be that deep. So yeah.
So we have our horses. Things aren't going right. How do we know the issue is with the relationship between horse and human and the energies that are being swapped versus an issue with the horse itself, maybe the horse's backstory, what it's been through before it's come to us?
Yeah, I think that's such an amazing place to go, because that's the key. Is relationship is the foundation. I call it the river of relationship, because it's like, it's your river banks where you and your horse can move together in a flow, finding that safety together. It is in itself what should be built first. That attunement between people and their horses, feeling seen, heard, and understood, creating safety together. That is the layer, the base layer, what you always need to come back to. It's like with a friend, they might be amazing, you might be amazing at certain things, but ultimately, if you can't hear each other and listen to each other, and you don't feel that connection, the friendship you don't feel safe within that friendship. So I think that's what's important to acknowledge, is that's the relationship is always going to be something that we need to nurture, always, continuously. It's a practice. Relationship is a practice, which is what I learned. It's not like you build it and then you're like, great, that house is built, let's go. It's, I've got to keep chipping away and keep growing and keep changing and keep developing. But then I also think there's all of the other pieces that we've got to acknowledge, whereby that's physically with our horses. Perhaps they have something in them that doesn't feel safe inside, because it's telling their body that there's a danger because they're hurt or they're uncomfortable or they're in pain, and that influences how they feel, or us. And also, but the thing I think that you're really touching on here, which I love to jump into, is our horses have their own component too. And just like us with all of our kind of suitcases of stuff,
baggage.
yeah, exactly. Some people have a little handbag, some people have like the whole boat, and that's fine. Exactly, we've all got a few suitcases hidden there.
Oh, we do.
Oh yeah, paying extra on EasyJet. People are like, oh, I didn't even know I was bringing these ones. I don't even know how they got there. Our horses also have that too. And it's so important that we not define them by that, because it's like, we don't want to be defined by what we're carrying, our programming, our generational things. Horses generationally, how much hurt is there generationally wise? We're all bringing that with us. And especially my new pony, she's had a difficult past too. And it's the reason why I'm becoming a safe place in my nervous system and my body is so I can help hold you and just be there and hear you. And a big part of what I do is also equine trauma release, which is something I stumbled on completely by accident within my massage sessions. And it is when you feel seen and heard, and when you feel safe, your nervous system naturally enters a place of inner safety so it can start to heal. And in our horses, we've got to acknowledge that they are their own component, and not it's their job to fix themselves. No, we are the custodians of them. We are their caretakers. We are their partners in this life, and going, okay, how can I hold space for you to help you let go of what you're carrying, because it's heavy. And it means that you can't connect with me in the way you want to, because there's something from the past that's going, not safe. And I've had the most profound sessions where I've done nothing. All I've done is I've just regulated myself, and I've taken my ego, my expectations out of it. And I've just said to them, hey, I'm here. I see you, and I build up a little bit of attunement, and they go, okay, finally a human is actually listening rather than just telling me what to do. And the release that happens, and the levels that they are holding without us even knowing. And I've had horses lie down, I've had horses roll, shake, have really profound responses, because their body is letting go of stuff that they're holding. And when your body releases what it's been holding, it naturally deepens your capacity for connection, because there's less danger in the way. And I love that question, because it makes us realize that we need to be that space for our horses more and more, so we can see what's going on and we can help them. And if there's another issue that needs to be solved, like a physical or introducing more healing in us or them, we can see it and we can be aware of it and we can hold it. And that's the key.
It's really wonderful to listen to, and to hear how subtle it is that we don't have to do big gestures So for human to human relationships, like you say, we become almost like a counsel, don't we, to our partners, our friends, our family, when we're all going through tough times, and we park our issues up at the door and we listen and we talk, hopefully, if things are all peaceful and going well. But with our horses, we can just be peaceful and quiet and stand with them. And as you say, just put your hand on them. And that is enough to help our horses with their issues as well.
Yeah. And a lot of horses I've worked with that have had trauma, well, everyone's had trauma, all horses, all humans, but significant relational trauma, especially those who have in the racing industry or those who have had early experiences of humans not being fair, not being trustworthy, not being safe. They can't connect. They can't reach out. There's something in them that's like, this very act of connection isn't safe to me. And it's those that you're almost helping them heal that by it's building attunement, which is the sense of feeling seen, heard, and understood, and responding to their emotional states that they're showing us. So even if it's just they look away and we just take a step away and we just go, yeah, I saw you. I noticed that. And just in that very act, it can be a minuscule, it can be a look away. It can be a turn your shoulders if you don't want to move your feet. Just acknowledging, or if they reach out, normally want to go straight up and reach out. Actually, if we just mentally go, yeah, thank you, and just look away, often these horses, they go like, why is a human listening to me like this? It's so subtle and so gentle that it means everything to them. And I miss it. Everyone misses these things all the time because we're not present enough in who we are. We're not, the world is not designed for us to be present, right? It's like noise everywhere, radio, phones. We're always doing something. So we aren't able to be present with the little things. And we want to save, we want to fix, we want to shape, we want to direct. And just in that moment, if we can just see them and go, okay, yeah, I see you. Often they'll step in and they'll come back. And that part of them that's wanting connection gets reignited.
I'm wondering, Kat, whether it's a therapy to you as well, because I think we're slightly similar in that we're quite extroverted characters, and we're both gesturing wildly, loud voices, big personalities. But is it therapeutic for you? Because I know for me, when I'm working with my horses, it gives me a chance to be quiet and to calm down my sort of extroverted tendencies. I don't have to be wildly animated. I can just be very gentle and quiet, and I enjoy that. I'm wondering if it's therapeutic to you as well.
Yeah. You've hit the nail on the head. And I think, yeah, just like you, it's like, it's all too easy for us to, that's who we are. It's like, love it. I love it so much. I'm always the first one on the dance floor. Give me a glass of water. I'm there. Like that I am. And I think, I was having this conversation with my boyfriend. I was like, I don't think you understand that if I don't have horses in my life, like it's not good. Like my space, yeah. I'm like, it's not just I want to be with them. It's like, no. This is a genuine issue if I can't spend that time with them, because they are I think actually probably one of the only things that see you, that allow you to see the parts of yourself, those quieter parts, those present parts, those parts that don't need words, to access that and help you put you back in touch with it and who you have to become when you're with them, especially in the release sessions. Like these are like 2-hour sessions because I need to give them the space and the time to decompress. Sometimes I don't say a word. Sometimes I barely move. And it's the amount of presence. You almost feel high because you are so present in that moment. And it's like something in you is just there. And when you spend your life, I'm quite ADHD, so I've just got this, that, this here, this everywhere. Like I'm very, it's just,
yes.
And it's that peace, that all of those parts coming together and aligning, and you're just here in that moment. And it is therapy. It is that kind of coming together of you and your soul that you don't often give space to, but when another being is there for you to hold space for and with, and who you have to become is that, it's like you come home to yourself for that moment. And then when those 2 hours are up, you're back in the car like, la, 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 la. but you've had that and you remember it, and it comes into who you are. Yeah, certainly.
And Kat, for those listening who are inspired by your journey and your thoughts and your reflections today, what one piece of advice would you give them that they can take away right now and put into action to give them a better connection and to help them build a better connection with their horses?
Oh my goodness, all the places I could go with this. I think I'm like, call me back. I think the power of observation, because often we are so attached to the moment in front of us. We are so invested in what we become. If someone looked at our face, I know those who are listening can't see me, we become stern-faced, fixated, even when we want to be being loving and fun, or we want to be light and present with our horses. Often who we are being is not that, and that's okay. And I think going away today, and it's something you can do totally for free, doesn't take time, but in order to bring that space of safety to your relationship with yourself and your horse, the first step is always awareness. Because when you become aware of something, you remove the judgment, you remove that attachment, and just almost catching it and going, oh my God, that's so interesting. And in that moment, for example, you can notice it about yourself. Like the other day, I noticed with my pony, I can't remember, I think she walked off. And I was like, cool, that's fine, consciously. And unconsciously, I went, fine, everyone always leaves me anyway. And I was like, wow, isn't that interesting? Because that would have happened anyway, but it just would have been under the surface and I never ever would have been aware of it. And thankfully, I've done all this work now that I don't dive into that, because for the rest of the day, I might have been stirring on that somewhere in my unconscious. And actually, it's all just indications. So you can go, wow, okay, isn't that interesting? And smile and breathe. And then you can meet your horse. So then you can observe things about your horse. So, for example, if you're in a conversation together and they stop blinking, or they stop chewing, or you feel in your body an unease or a block, or just paying attention to, you're always connected with your horse on a nervous system level, even if that's in a dysregulating way, you're both losing it bit by bit together, or you're becoming that safe space for your horse to match you and come back to and regulate. There's no good or bad. It's just how it is. And notice, what's your horse's eyes doing? Have they not taken a breath? Have they gone a little bit quiet? Have they shut down a little bit? Or are they needing to bite something? And just going, okay, and acknowledging and just taking that step away and going, okay, I see you and I'm here. And just seeing if there's any shift, if they start to blink or release, and giving yourself space and time to do that. And if you're in a busy session, maybe it's 5 minutes at the beginning that you just be with your horse. You just notice these things and you start to regulate you first and give yourself space first to come to the session from a different space, rather than in the energy that you've come into from the day you've brought with you. Have a little gap where you just go, for these 5 minutes, I'm just going to observe myself, my horse, and just see what happens. And I think you'll be amazed at what comes through and what you learn about yourself and your horse. So yeah, that's my little tip.
Oh. And focusing on you, Kat, and your hopes and dreams, how do you hope that your methods will evolve in the future? And also, what are your aims and your hopes and your dreams in terms of equine therapy and equine psychology in the future?
Yeah, I think, it's really amazing that this question came up here. Every question, I'm like, that's my question. Thank you, Anna. I realized the other day that I was like, oh, I love what I do. I sometimes just cry in a session because I'm just like, oh, I just love connecting humans and horses in this deeper way. And it's such a gift. But what I realized was I didn't realize how desperately needed it is for all of us in every single walk of life. It goes way further than just with our horses. It is creating a safer world, actually, and how the lessons that we can learn from our horses and ourselves for ourselves is how can we change our industry, our world of horses, of whatever shape or form you do it in, modality. There's so much judgment there, and there's so much toxicity, and there's so much, we think that people change because we judge. Whereas actually what this work teaches us is what changes the most is being seen and being heard and being understood. Even if someone doesn't agree with you, even if they don't live by that with you, it's knowing that relationship always comes first. If it's with another, even if it's with that person that you like the least or whatever, it's changing the narrative of the equestrian world, our world, how we go about our life. Because the horses show us that actually underneath it all, we're just mammals who deeply need to connect, who deeply need to nourish their relationships. And we aren't operating like that in the world. And I think the work that I'm doing, and I'm gifted, I feel like I'm gifted this journey to be sharing. It's about weaving it in with what we already do. All of those moments in the day where we can attune to someone or we can attune to ourselves. And when we nurture ourselves and we let go of some of the stuff that we're carrying, that changes the world. Because if everyone did that, our horses would not know that, they would have completely different humans, completely different world to wake up in. We would have a completely different world to wake up in when we do the work on ourselves and taking it seriously and going, okay, if I want to live more connected, more free, more enriched, more expressed, more safe existence, that's where I need to start. Because if I want my horse to feel safe, this is the world that I want to create for them. And I really believe that this is the way to start. And it's the foundation for everything.
Oh, Kat, thank you so much for such a wonderful conversation and such an inspiring discussion about your journey and what you're doing in present times as well to change the lives of your horses that you work with and yourself, and also hopefully have that trickle effect as well. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much. I've absolutely loved it. Thank you.
For those listening who want to find you and follow you and get in touch, how can they do that, Kat?
So you can find me on my social media. So at Balance and Align Equine, for those of you on Instagram or Facebook. And, you can on my website as well. So it's www.balanceandalign.com. Or for those of you who want to reach out, and please do reach out, because I love hearing from everyone and hearing, your story with your horse and where you're at, is my email, which is Catherine@balanceandalign.com.
Yay! We'll leave it there.